What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pride Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Meko, joined by my guy Morgan here. And Morgan, we're back with another film study. We're not going to do top plays because, listen, I personally just can't relive what I had to go through on Thanksgiving. But for those of you that do want to know some of the top plays that happened, Morgan did do his film breakdown of the Lions Packers game. I'll leave a link to that in the description, so you guys can definitely go check that out. Morgan did an awesome job really kind of dissecting some of the deficiencies that happened on the defensive end, which is kind of where this team has struggled with. And if you caught my last video, you'll know that that's the area of concern that I have, where I'm most concerned about this team. But Morgan, I didn't want to relive that. I want to kind of just move on to the Saints, because I think this is a really, pivotal point for the Lions at this point in the season.
Yeah, I don't blame you, Miko, for not wanting to relive that. I was kind of dreading getting through the film, but it was actually pretty enlightening to an extent. Like, go ahead, read that article that I wrote on Pride of Detroit. It's basically just talking about the relationship between a pass rush and coverage, right? They're very, those two are in harmony with one another. So, but yeah, excited to move on to the Saints and get into it.
Yeah, this is a game. Again, we kind of, I feel like we've said it like the last couple of weeks, but it's a matchup where the Lions should be somewhat favored. And coming off a loss against the Packers, I think it's an opportunity for the Lions to get back into the win column against a team that, listen, they're a little bit better than their record shows, but I do think there's opportunities for the Lions to take advantage of this matchup and pick up a win this week.
Definitely, they have some strengths where the Saints are, fairly weak in terms of like just their overall production and how they've looked through the season. So, yeah, we'll get into that. But one place they're not weak at is the running back position, man. Alvin Kamara is still one of the best in the business. And yeah, I really like this design by the Saints here too. It's going to be like a crack pull combination.
Yeah, AK is still that guy, right? Maybe not having the best statistical season. Obviously, he missed a couple games earlier this year. I believe it was with a suspension, right, Morgan?
Yeah, I believe I think he got into a little bit of a tussle somewhere in the off season and beat a guy up a little bit. But yeah, he's back and he's doing things like this.
Yeah, and so like you said, I like this play as well. It's a really unique type of run concept out of shotgun. Typically, you see, when you see these types of plays and you see this type of alignment, you're usually expecting some sort of inside zone. The Saints will definitely keep you guessing with their offensive play calling, and with so many different styles of offensive players. Lions defense are absolutely going to be on the lookout for plays like this.
Yeah, Miko, great point too. Like, it's especially out of the gun right there. You're typically looking at an inside zone going the other way, that kind of concept. So this is cool. They switch Kamara at the last second. And like we talked about, nice little crack by 87, and it allows Pete to pull and get a block on somebody. And really, if Taysom Hill does anything whatsoever here as a blocker, then this might go for more. But he kind of just ends up getting in the way.
No, absolutely. If he does anything with Mike Hughes on this play, puts any type of contact on him, Alvin Kamara is in the end zone celebrating here. But again, it's something that I'm sure this Lions coaching staff is going to stress to this defense, is that, like, listen, they're going to want to stop the run first, and that means stopping Alvin Kamara. That means limiting his explosive plays out of the backfield, on these early type down situations.
Yeah, you're going to have to. I know I say it all the time, but you're going to have to be wary of where he is pre-snap. They're going to hunt mismatches. Like, they're going to want to get him against linebackers. They're going to want to get him against Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes. My preferred matchup, and I'm sure a lot of Lions fans agree with me, would be to have Brian Branch hopefully shoulder a lot of those duties, because I think Branch is a phenomenal tackler. If he gets his hands on you, he's going to get you on the ground 98% of the time. Good in space. So, yeah, that would be my vote. And especially on a play like this, I really like this setup too. So the Saints are in 12 personnel, and it's just a nice little easy swing pass opposite of where the receivers are lined up at the top of your screen.
Yeah, and this speaks exactly to what you were just saying, though, about, again, trying to get Alvin Kamara lined up against linebackers and just allowing him to be a better athlete. And I think you had a really cool call out to this when we were breaking down this play earlier. Alvin Kamara is not the type of guy that goes down easily. So, like, again, you can't just expect that, okay, we have good tacklers, and Brian Branch or even Jack Campbell's been really good tackling. like, okay, they'll be able to limit these types of plays. Like Alvin Kamara is very capable of shrugging off tackles and taking short gains, turning them into long gains.
Yeah, man. He's like one of those runners that never really like I feel like no one ever really gets a good square hit on him. He like shrugs it off and like almost like I don't know. It's a really cool like way of running, and I've always really loved his style of play. So yeah, you're gonna have to get to the run to the football. I know Dan Campbell talks about it all the time. Populate to the football,
Yeah.
but yeah, run to the football, get him down. First person wraps up, second person gets that ball out because yeah, he can break tackles, and he'll this should have been a short little gain, and he breaks a tackle, tiptoes down the sideline for another 10 yards, and he doesn't even fall after he gets popped by whoever that was there, Grant.
Yeah, and I think like sometimes people, because Alvin Kamara is this type of like, do it all running back, again, primarily made his living, catching the ball in passing routes like this. People don't tend to think of him being such a like a hard runner, so something that's so difficult to take down. But like he's very physical. Like we saw it on the run play as well with the quick little pitch out. He's not afraid of contact. So yeah, this defense is absolutely going to have to bring their hard hat both when it comes to covering him, whether it's in the run game or in the pass game.
Yeah, great point, Miko. I think the casual fan like that doesn't watch New Orleans a lot, probably like thinks of Kamara as like more of a scat bat, but he's a big dude, man. Like he'll run through your chest. He's a physical, like he runs with an attitude. I've always loved his game, back to his Tennessee days, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope he doesn't have just a nice quiet afternoon against the Lions, and then he can go crazy the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, like he can do whatever he wants to do against the rest of the NFC South. Like I would
Yeah.
love to see the Saints kind of come out of out of the NFC South. I've always been a low key fan of theirs. Uh, but yeah, he's a guy that they definitely have to keep an eye on. Talking about the Lions, but Morgan, for me personally, the player that I have like the biggest circle drawn around this week has to be Chris Olave. And maybe it's recency bias because of the last few weeks. The Lions have given up big games to Christian Watson. They gave a big game to DJ Moore. We all know about the big game that they gave up to Keenan Allen. Chris Olave is another one of those dudes, and Derek Carr is another one of those quarterbacks that, like, again, if you don't disrupt their rhythm, if you allow them to just kind of do whatever they want to do on the field, they will completely wreck your defensive game plan.
Yeah, absolutely, Miko. Carr is not, he's not top 10. He's an efficient quarterback, especially like you said, you give him time to keep him clean back there. He can make a lot of throws, really good arm talent. I know we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, I really like Olave, man. He's coming from that, coming from Ohio State, from that crazy receiver room where they were all there. So yeah, this is going to be a challenge. And again, they're going to want to get him against, I would assume get him away from Cam Sutton. At
Yeah.
least that's what I would do. Not to say Cam Sutton could like completely shut him down. I'm just, you guys know what I'm getting at. But yeah, this is a really good
we've all
play.
seen Jerry play the last few weeks. Yeah, we kind of get the vibe.
Exactly, man. And Olave is really good off the line of scrimmage. It's going to be tough to jam him. Like Okuda is, in press right here. Not bad technique, but he gets a little bit of separation. Good throw from Carr, and then it's just run after catch, man. And like you said, great call out earlier. Old friend alert, Jamal Williams. Just watch this block here. It's a little bit of a play fake from Carr, and he just steps up and cuts this linebacker down, man. This is just a really good block by Jamal.
Yeah, great block by Jamal. Great route concept because, again, like you said, I think Jeff is doing the best he possibly can in this situation. But this is one of those routes that you run if you know a defense is going to run man coverage, and you just want to run away from that coverage because the minute you can get that corner in trail position, it's an easier throw for the quarterback. And Derek Carr does a great job here layering this throw just over the head of Jeff Okuda. Chris Olave makes a great play and then beats the safety. And again, if it's not for, again, everybody kind of rallying to the ball, this is probably going for 6.
Yeah, and Olave's got that big playability, right? Like he can take the ball and turn a regular play into a 50-yard play, a chunk play. So yeah, gonna have to be cleaner than this. And the Falcons, we were watching this film, played a lot of man against the Saints, and it was something we talked about before we got on. But it's going to be interesting to see how Aaron Glenn, decides to play against the Saints just because of Olave, right? Because they are going to run these man beater concepts that are just going to try to get him a little bit of separation and allow allow Carr to layer it in there. So Yeah, man, I don't. This does make me worry, and I hope that the Lions have a plan to counteract it a little bit.
Yeah, and real quick, like you were talking about with Jamal, this is another really good angle of this block by Jamal, basically filling, picking up 53. And then you just see the time that Derek Carr has to kind of just sit back there, survey the field, allow that route to develop. And then, man, this angle of this catch by Chris Olave is next level. Like, it's super impressive.
Yeah, poor Jeff. And from everything I've heard, Okuda's been playing pretty decently in Atlanta, but this is just a big time player making a big time play because he's got a pretty good quarterback back there. But yeah, just takes it off his head. Makes Jesse Bates whiff. Good tackle by 37. But yeah.
Yeah, and like I said,
Well,
that's a touchdown saving tackle, right? Like, and so that's the thing with Chris Olave. Like, the reason, Morgan, for me, that he's the player that I have a big like kind of circle around is not just for plays like that, right? Like that, yes, is a big time throw. It goes for 51 yards. He breaks a tackle. It's for the simple fact of how he's utilized, because he's one of those players that he's not just going to line up on the outside. He's not just going to be out wide and just like, okay, cool, we're going to put Cam or Jerry on him, and then they can just lock down one side of the field. They move Chris Olave around a lot. And it's almost like a Where's Waldo with this guy, because they will find any opportunity they can to kind of find a mismatch for him.
yeah, and we saw that again watching the film, and they do a good job because they're trying to, similar to Kamara, they're trying to hunt mismatches. And here, this is just a little bit of a little bit of malpractice from Atlanta. They're in man, and for whatever reason, they're showing Bud Dupree showing like he's going to rush off the edge here, but he's actually in man with Olave, and I'm sure Bud Dupree doesn't take a lot of pass coverage reps in practice, and it shows here, man. This is about as easy as it gets for Carr, right, Nico?
Yeah, this is as easy as it gets for both guys, right? Because Derek Carr is able to just easily step back, see that his guy is one on one with a linebacker, and Chris Olave is able to probably run the easiest route he ran all day, where it's just a simple outbreaking route. But like you said, Bud Dupree probably doesn't take many, reps and in coverage playing these types of routes, and so he's able to just easily create separation, easy pitch and catch.
Yeah, and this is another theme, right, that we saw is like the Saints are pretty good at protecting Carr, or at least they were against Atlanta when we watched this game, because the Saints, the Falcons, excuse me, are probably thinking like, okay, yes, we have Bud Dupree guarding somebody, but this blitz is going to get home. We sent extra guys, we sent a safety, but it doesn't get home, and this is what happens. Like when I was talking earlier about the relationship between pass coverage and then your rush, right? Like if you're going to blitz here, it has to
Yeah.
get home because you have Bud Dupree trying to guard Chris Olave. So if the blitz doesn't get home, you're cooked. You're barbecue chicken, to quote Shaq.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like it's something that I feel like the Lions, this could be very reminiscent of the Lions, because I think they've had trouble generating pressure on their own, and so they're gonna probably have to dial up a couple blitzes here and there. They're going to need those to get home. And with the possibility of not having Alex Anzalone this week, it is something I'm a little concerned about, Morgan, because he is one of their better blitzing linebackers. I think Tracy's really good at blitzing. Obviously, Brian Branch is very good at blitzing, so it's possible that they can utilize those kind of guys. But this offensive line has done a really good job of picking those guys up. You also saw Kamara in this situation. We saw Jamal pick up a blitz. Kamara does the same thing. Jawan Johnson does a good job of deterring the pass rusher on the edge. This team, like I said, the record is going to say one thing, right? But you start looking at some of these, some of their tape. You start looking at some of their games like this. It seems like a team that does the right things to at least give themselves a chance to be in games.
Yeah, great points, Miko. And there's a reason the Saints are a lot of people's like biggest disappointment team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people did have higher expectations for them. It's still a pretty, a talented roster. But yeah, it's going to be time. To your point, it's going to be time for Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes to step up if Anzalone is out. Because yeah, he's been one of the best blitzing linebackers. He's definitely been their best coverage linebacker this year. He's been really good in coverage. So they're going to have to step up. And please, for the love of God, don't have Charles Harris or anyone trying to guard Chris Olave. That's all I ask.
No, absolutely not.
Amen.
And then for my last Chris Olave play, and then we will move on to the rest of this offense. So, like I said, we've seen him already. We've seen him out wide. We've seen him lined up near the left tackle. Now we see him more in a traditional slot, in between Rasheen Shaheed in this play and Juwan Johnson. And again, they're hunting for matchups, like you said. They get Mike Hughes lined up against Chris Olave. Mike Hughes probably has a good amount of reps at corner, being a cornerback and all that. Doesn't do much better than Bud Dupree in this situation.
No, and this is the Falcons are kind of tipping their hand to an extent, right? They're mugging the line of scrimmage. They got two guys in the A gaps. They end up only rushing four, but it's Carr realizes it's man really quickly, and yeah, just another easy throw and catch, man. This is Lions fans. This might look a little similar, or at least familiar, because a lot of this is what the Goff and St. Brown feast on, right? Just this
Yeah.
really well timed out route that if it's ran right and thrown right, it's damn near indefensible, right, Miko?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, like, again, having Brian Branch be able to cover these types of routes, I would have more faith in him than a Mike Hughes. But it's kind of reminiscent of everything we've said with the last couple plays we looked at with Olave. Derek Carr has plenty of time to survey the field. Olave is able to get out of his breaks, and everything is able to just be in rhythm and on time for Derek Carr to be able to deliver this ball. And so again, it kind of goes back to this defensive line. Like, can they generate enough pressure quick enough to be able to disrupt Derek Carr, at least make him hold the ball a little bit longer and have to create something on the fly?
Yeah, Miko, that, clog up passing lanes, get your hands up. There's things you can do to make him uncomfortable. And the Lions did not do that last week against the Packers and Jordan Love. He was just comfy back there, didn't really get hit much. And, I watched that film. They didn't really have a lot of plays that took a long time to get developed. Like a lot of them were Love just hitting his back foot and letting it rip. But that's where the wins have to come quicker along the defensive line. So yeah, they're gonna have to mix up your coverages against Carr. He's been around a long time. He's gonna see things pre-snap if you just make it really easy for him. So yeah,
Yeah,
disguise. Got to confuse him and heat him up.
yeah, absolutely. And I think this is another good example of that when talking about Derek Carr, because again, he's not one of those quarterbacks, like you said, not maybe in the top 10, right? Not someone that you should necessarily be worried about going into games, but he's savvy. He understands the game, and he understands when he has, good mismatches, that are in his favor. And in this one, well, and I was actually, before I move on to that, he's also not afraid to push the ball down the field, right? Like, he gets a little greedy. He's Stafford like in this sense of, like, he wants the big play. He won't take he's not going to take the easy check down. He's going to go for the home run threat. And I think that's exactly what he does here. This is 1st and 10, Juwan Johnson, and this goes for over 20 yards because Derek Carr is just like, yeah, I'm going to wait for this play to develop. I have the time to wait for it, and I'm going to hit my guy perfectly in stride here.
Yeah, Miko, great points. And the Falcons do a pretty good job of passing this off. Like there could have been a little bit of confusion between Okuda and whoever that is, 20 there for the Falcons, but they pass it off pretty well. But yeah, this is just a really good throw to your point, Miko. Like Carr knows he's got the matchup he likes, and he's going to put it in, on the top shelf where the big kids can get it. And yeah, just a really good play. Tough day for Okuda. Good Lord.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other thing that's like somewhat kind of frustrating with plays like this is not like the Saints have like this well of skill, talented skill players, right? Like, we're talking about Chris Olave. We spent a lot of time talking about him. They have Alvin Kamara, Rasheen Shaheed, who probably won't play Sunday, has been really good for them this year. But then it's like Juwan Johnson and what, Taysom Hill?
Yeah, they're really banged up, man. They got what is it? A.T. Perry, and they have Lynn Bowden, who you'll remember was the quarterback at Kentucky a couple of years ago, and now he's a receiver. So yeah, not a wealth of options outside of Olave and Kamara, but Juwan Johnson can make plays, and Carr trusts his arm enough. Sometimes it gets him in trouble. I will say that. That's why he's in New Orleans now and not with the Raiders still, to an extent. But yeah, he'll make those throws, Miko. Great point. He'll push it down the field. So it's going to be one of the Saints haven't ran the ball well, but they'll soften you up by throwing it deep and getting those safeties out of the box.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter who it's to, right? Derek Carr, like you said, trusts his arm enough, and he's willing to take the gambles, even on a play like this to Taysom Hill, which, if I told you this play happened, you would be like, there's no way, right? 2nd and 20, going up against in this game against Atlanta. and he finds Taysom Hill of all people for 36 yards on this.
Yeah, and we talked about it before. This is really just a screw it ball to an extent by Carr, because it's not like, Hill has a bunch of separation or anything like that. It's just, again, trusting your guy to make a play. Hill is a big, strong athlete. I'll give him that. Not really a
Mm-hmm.
quarterback. We'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, this is just treating him like he's Calvin Johnson down there and makes a play on the ball. And it's a chunk for the Saints. Like you said, Miko, great point. Like he's never been afraid to push the ball down the field. I give him that.
Yeah, and so again, if you're AG talking to your DBs, you're hoping that they're going to be a little more aggressive at the point of attack. But again, Derek Carr shows some great, like, again, better than you would expect mobility to be able to get out of the pocket. And then, yeah, like, I have the arm to make this throw, and I'm just going to trust my guy to make a play on it.
100%. And he's deceptively athletic for, being who he is. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, really strong arm and deceptively athletic.
Yeah.
So
And so, obviously, another thing that the defense is going to have to worry about is, like I said, the person that catches the ball on this play in Taysom Hill, because, like, he's a weapon for them, right? He doesn't play, he takes snaps at quarterback, but they're not always throwing the ball. He sometimes is out, lined out as a wide receiver. He's sometimes lined up in line as a tight end. And then sometimes he's, again, like I said, taking snaps as almost like as a running back. And it's another thing that's going to make your defense have to think.
yeah, it's another look they can show, right, Miko? They can come out in this look with Hill either under center or in the gun. Typically, I want to say he takes most of these snaps from the shotgun. But yeah, the Saints are in the fullbacks split next to them. I think Adam Prentice, I think, is the name. So yeah, they do a good job. And this is a tough spot for 53 to be in for Atlanta. He's by himself. There's a huge hole here because 90 tries to go inside and then Bud Dupree goes wide. And 53 is here just taking on a fullback while also trying to tackle Taysom Hill, man. That's a tough spot to be in, right?
Yeah, like, and I said this when we first kind of were going over this play. I don't know what they thought was going to happen on this play based on the personnel, because the only like true offensive threat on the field at this time is Chris Olave, who goes into motion. Outside of that, there's no Alvin Kamara. There's no I don't think Juwan Johnson is in on this play. Like, I don't know what you were expecting other than it should have been like, oh, this is going to be like QB power.
Right. And this is where I would hope that the Lions, again, he's been around. Dan Campbell was in New Orleans for a while. He's very familiar with Taysom Hill. So I would assume that they have a counter to this, and I would hope it's going to be like a 5-down lineman front, maybe, that kind of thing, or an extra linebacker, go 4-3, like traditional, like a quote unquote base. Because, yeah, Hill's a big, strong runner, man. We were joking earlier. He's like a smaller Josh Allen who can't throw the ball.
Yeah,
And he's tough to tackle. It's a big, strong athlete. So, again, similar to Kamara, run to the football, get him on the ground.
absolutely. So that's the offense in a nutshell. And like I said, that's the side of the ball that I'm probably the most concerned about, Morgan, going into this game. Is not necessarily saying that they're going to put up a ton of points, but I just think they can, move down the field enough. They have a really good kicker that's good from 50 plus. It's one of those things where, like, if they can, again, play keep away with the Lions a little bit, get their shots when they can. It's one of those games that I think could start to get away from them defensively, just because, again, the defense has kind of struggled to execute the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Miko. That's where I'm right there with you because if the Lions defense isn't sound, like this offense isn't a juggernaut by any means, but they have the playmakers to make a defense pay if they're not playing sound football, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because then we get over to the defensive side, and this is where I think the Lions should have the biggest advantage. This Saints defense is not the Saints defense of old that we're kind of used to. This team has usually been very, very sound defensively when you have guys like Cam Jordan, when you have guys like Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu's been there the last couple of years. Like, those guys are still really good, and those are the guys that we're going to highlight here. But Atlanta beat these dudes up on the ground, and it's something that kind of should make every Lions fan kind of smile. But one thing that absolutely has to be kept in mind is that the fact that, like, listen, Cam Jordan may be getting up there in years. He may not be having, the type of production we're used to when it comes down to sacking the quarterback. This dude still doesn't quit on rundowns though. Like, he will still shut down your run game if he can.
Yeah, great points, Miko. Like Demario Davis and Cam Jordan have been some of the best players at their position for a really long time now. It's really impressive. Cam Jordan was drafted in 2011, so that man's 34 years old and still making plays like this. So I know, I know. Sometimes I'm not one of these guys that's like, okay, the Lions don't block defensive ends with tight ends. You have to do it sometimes, guys. I know
Mm-hmm.
everyone hates to hear it, but my request would be, please don't do it on the front side.
Yeah.
Okay, please don't ask Sam Laporta or Brock Wright to block Cam Jordan on the play side because it is not going to end well.
Well, yeah. Not only is it going to not end well as far as like the results of the play, Cam Jordan seems like the type of dude that gets a lot of joy
Whipping tight ends.
whipping
Yeah,
tight ends, and especially a rookie. Like, oh,
yeah.
I'm going to take so much joy out of snatching Sam Laporta's soul on this play.
Yo, he's one of my favorite players, like personality wise. I love his game too, but he's been one of my favorite players personality wise for a long time. And yeah, he'll be one to let you know about it too. Like, come on, rookie, you thought you were gonna block me? Like, 100%. So yeah, this is just a really nice play, and I would hope Ben Johnson has more respect for Cam Jordan than that because this would be messed up. If I was Sam Laporta, I'll go to Ben Johnson on Tuesday when they're watching film. Like, what are you doing to me, man? Like front side, you got me blocking Cam Jordan?
Yeah, like hey, like wait, I thought this is what we had Brock for. Like, shouldn't he be the one that's taking this abuse and punishment?
Shoot, that's who we have Panay Sewell for. Like, I'm
That
not
too,
like
right? Like, can we get Skip out here? Like, someone else can take
somebody.
this.
I'm not doing this, man.
I don't have to be the recipient of this abuse. And
No.
then like let's say okay, fine. The Lions are able to handle, Cam Jordan in that situation. I'm a huge fan of Demario Davis. I think Demario Davis, hands down, in my opinion, is one of the top 5 linebackers in the NFL right now. Um, like I said, Saints defense hasn't been great this year. They've definitely struggled. They struggled this week against the Falcons. But Demario Davis will still make plays, and specifically like in pass coverage and run defense. And this is one of those plays where you don't see a lot of linebackers make these types of plays in rundowns. Morgan.
No, Miko. Like Demario Davis to me is like him and Fred Warner are your prototypical modern day linebackers. Like if you could create them in a lab, it's Demario Davis, Fred Warner prototype, just mutant linebacker that can do it all. You don't got to take him off the field, like you said. So yeah, this is just a really nice play, man. We were talking about it before we got on. Snaps this guard's neck back, man. This is great. This linebacker play gets into his chest. Wow, snaps his neck back, and then like a bullet just gets the running back on the ground, man. Bijan too, Lord. But yeah, Demario Davis been that guy to me. He's been top 5, honestly, probably
Yeah.
top 3. I would only linebacker I'd take in front of Demario Davis these days is Fred Warner. So
Yeah, probably. Like I know some people are real big fans of Roquan, but I agree with you. I don't think Roquan is doing this, right?
nope.
And it's mainly because of size, right? Like Demario Davis has the prototypical size, he's got the athleticism, and he's smart, he's heady. Um and dude just gets after it. So while I can sit here and say like, hey, I expect the Lions to be able to, replicate some of the same things we saw the Falcons doing in the run game, when you have guys like Demario Davis, when you have guys like Cam Jordan, even Carl Granderson, one of their other defensive ends, these are guys that you kind of have to be concerned about in the run game because it just takes a couple snaps here and there where they can make some big time plays, put you behind the sticks, and now you're trying to figure out like how do we pick up first down on a 3rd and 13 instead of a third and manageable.
Yeah, 100%. Like you're gonna have to be cognizant of those guys, and then on the same note, where the Saints do struggle is interior. So their interior D line has struggled to like hold up against the run. And if I'm Ben Johnson and David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs, I'm hoping Frank, Jonah. I'm hoping Jonah's up this week. Knock on
Mm-hmm.
wood. Uh, Graham, like that should be good eating for the Lions, at least on paper. Hopefully they can push people around, get the line of scrimmage moving because I do think if they start clicking well, clicking like they have been, the run game could have a really big day against the Saints, especially up the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then I think once you get past like the defensive line, once you get past the linebackers, I think their secondary is also a little susceptible, but you still have to be on the lookout for Tyrann Mathieu. All these years later, and Tyrann Mathieu is still kind of terrorizing, quarterbacks, um, by again being a really good athlete, but also just being a really intelligent player, knowing where to be, and always just knowing how to make a play on the ball when he's given the opportunity.
Yes, sir, Miko, 100%. Honey Badgers still don't give a you know what. He's still that player. This is just a really good play, man. Uh, this is a bad ball by Ritter on the wheel here, but
Mm-hmm.
this is just a really good play on the ball by Mathieu too. Like this, not every safety makes this play. Run after catch. This man, dating back to his days at LSU, when he gets the ball, he wants to score.
Yeah.
Ideally,
Yeah, and
right?
this was his second pick of the game too, just to like let people know. Like Tyrann Mathieu, again, Saints lost this game, but kind of can't blame Tyrann Mathieu for much of it.
No, and that's it's crazy they lost this game because this is a bad. I'm not trying to pile on Desmond Ritter here, but he almost throws this wheel route like a back shoulder,
Yeah,
and maybe it's drawn up that way. I don't know. I'm not in Atlanta's meetings, but that's a weird throw. But nonetheless, really good play by the Honey Badger man. Also, one of my favorite players for a long time outside of the Lions. I've always really liked New Orleans too. To your point way earlier, Miko. Like I feel like Detroit, and New Orleans are like sister cities, just because the French heritage. Both of us dealt with a lot. So
I was
yeah,
gonna
pretty
say
cool.
like New Orleans had that long stretch again where it was almost like they were cursed, and then
Oh, yeah, they were the
Drew
Aints.
Brees and after Hurricane Katrina being able to overcome that as a
So cool.
city and as a football team to be able to win a Super Bowl. Um, but yeah, Tyrann Mathieu, man, again, I'm with you. One of my favorite players as well. Uh, does an amazing job of again covering that wheel route, and that's not something that you typically see. Teams run wheel routes because they're hard to cover, and so
Yeah,
for him to be able to cover that, going in motion, being in man, and again, never losing his head. Like that's where I say like being a veteran, being really just knowing the game so well that he knows that like okay, I know how to play this. I don't have to panic. I don't have to take eyes off the quarterback. Like I'm going to make a play if this comes my way.
yeah. It's like you said, Miko. Experience. They got obviously the defense isn't where it was in years past when the Saints were, you know, always a contender seemingly in the NFC. But yeah, they still got dudes: Cam Jordan, Honey Badger, Demario Davis. At each level, they got savvy, experienced veterans who can still make a lot of plays. So, not something to take lightly, but I do think if the Lions can execute, not turn the ball over, run the ball well, not make Goff throw the ball 40 times, I think they'll be in good shape.
Yeah, this is a game where, again, obviously there's no guarantee. Like I keep trying to say, there's no guarantee that this defense plays the same way they did against the Falcons. But this does seem like a really good matchup to at least get your offensive line back into their rhythm of dominating the line of scrimmage. I'm right there with you. Run the ball, like run it until they prove that they can stop it, and then allow Jared Goff to do what he does best, which is to play action off of that. Take your shots when you can. I think, like you said, I think Amon Ra could have a really big game this week. I think JMO could have a really big game considering just, running some of the type of plays that they've been running for him, just more volume. Like I think he's proving over the last couple of weeks that he can take these drag routes, these crossing routes, and make something out of them. So I'm expecting the Lions to again put that loss behind them, get back in the win column here against the Saints. But I just don't know if it's going to be as easy as we probably thought it was earlier in the season.
For sure. I don't think it's the NFL, folks. I really think the more people get into their minds that it's a week to week league and it's not like, oh, that's a good loss or a bad loss. Like people on Twitter all the time, like the Lions have had an easy schedule. Like that data is out there. They have not had an
Yeah,
easy schedule. Like I really want to say it's like middle of the pack. Like there's not that much variance. There's variance from the very bottom and the very top, obviously, but in the middle, it's just a lot of. So it's a week to week business. Um, and yeah, I to your point though, Miko, I just thought about JMO running that like crosser that Olave ran earlier, that man
oh
beater.
my,
We need that. I need that. I need a highlight of that in New Orleans with
yeah,
JMO hitting the crane in the Superdome. I need that in my blood. All right.
absolutely.
I need it. I need it.
But that's going to do it for us, guys. Like I said at the top of this, if you guys are looking for a breakdown of some of the top plays to come out of the Lions Packers game, Morgan does have an entire article dedicated to, again, like he said, breaking down just the marriage between pass rush and coverage. So if you really want to know, like, hey, what's going on with this defense? Why did it struggle so much against the Packers? Go check that out. I'll have it linked in the description. But also jump into the comment section below. Let us know, again, what you're feeling like with this matchup against the Saints. Are you super confident? Are you a little concerned? Uh, Feel free to throw a score prediction in there if you want. And we'll just continue to have this conversation in the comment section. But if you're looking for any more, news, coverage, rumors, anything else related to the Lions, you guys already know we have all of that stuff over at prideofdetroit.com, updating and posting new articles daily. And if you want to stay up to date with any of the content that we're publishing over here on YouTube, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you'll be notified every time we upload new content or anytime we go live. But with all that said, I'm Meko. He's Morgan. We appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. We'll catch you guys in the next one.